Well, we had a crazy series of Overwatch to kick off the day, and now we look forward to our next series, Vancouver taking on Dallas. And who knows what might happen here, Josh, where both these teams still have a lot to prove before the playoffs begin.
They definitely do have a lot to prove, and in some sense, Dallas more so than the Vancouver Titans, because the last time these two teams faced, it was that historic match where Decay was not fielded, and instead the Dallas Fuel kind of imploded and ended up granting the Vancouver Titans their first win of 2020 with that new roster. Now, obviously, things have changed quite a bit in the Dallas Fuel camp. No Decay now is a permanent move, along with a couple of changes to coaching staffs and stuff as well, but this is bound to be an interesting one no matter which way it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are both teams that are, in a word, volatile, and as we saw from the last match, right, this is a meta where things are going to be crazy even to begin with. But now we take a look at the Vancouver starting lineup. Nothing crazy here, and you know, the player you always look at in Vancouver right now, since they've gotten their new roster, you got to talk about Shockwave.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, Shockwave has been so high in terms of solo kills, which is also a product of his team not helping him at times, and the heroes that he plays, like the Echo and the Widowmaker. But when he has been playing those, the ability to turn fights around and provide key picks for his team has been huge. And I was impressed, actually, with his play on the Echo and on the Ashe, and then on the Widowmaker against the Florida Mayhem yesterday, where he really seemed like the power player that was otherwise making what would have otherwise seemed like a very easy match for the Florida Mayhem turned into a difficult situation because of the power of Shockwave.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something that Shockwave's been doing ever since his debut, where I think you look at the average rookie debut into the Overwatch League, and Shockwave, for a player that came in mid-season for a team that, you know, really did have to pivot rather quickly, I mean, what more can you expect from a player in this situation? I think Shockwave's actually been one of the most interesting stories of the 2020 season thus far. But now you definitely take a look at his opposition here. Shockwave versus Onigod, and what do you make of this?
Well, we've reviewed them on the Ashe here, because Shockwave did play a little bit of the Ashe. He tended more towards the Widowmaker, but that's what Onigod played for the majority of their series, where Dallas has played most recently. They played Ashe Pharah compositions, which is very interesting. Now, Shockwave has been phenomenal when he's been playing the Widowmaker. I wouldn't say his Ashe has been quite at the same level, but it's been pretty decent, whereas Onigod, I think, has been more of an Ashe specialist for this team. Even when Decay was on the roster, Onigod was stepping up to play the Ashe and specialize in it and spend a lot of time really getting to grips with that hero. So you take a look at the Dallas starters, and obviously it's this is the roster that they're going to be fielding for the rest of the season, in all likelihood. And with Onigod playing the Ashe and Doha flexing around on the Pharah for the majority of their previous encounter so far this week, a lot of pressure is on those DPS players to step up and deliver big results, because they have to be able to beat and batter back their opponents in order to kind of make room and capitalize on the advantages that their tank line sets up for them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult, too, when you take a look at where, you know, it's interesting seeing Dallas run what they're running, where we're in a meta right now where you look at the previous matches here in the week, a lot of Sombra is getting played, and yet Dallas is kind of settled on this meta where they're not playing Doha, at one point regarded by many to be the best Sombra in the world, on Sombra. They're trying to force these Pharah-based strategies, and, I mean, look, we don't know how their scrims went, but it's weird, Josh, to me. It's really weird.
Yeah, but weird has been the order of the day so far, and I think it's the order of the week. And it makes more sense when you consider, you know, the Overwatch League as a whole this week. When you take into account the APAC teams and how much dive they've been playing and the array of heroes that we have seen, it's all very different. And it's not just one meta in North America and one meta in APAC. It seems like in scrims this week with the hero pool and with the new patch, which, by the way, I had people confused about this who were watching. The patch that we're currently playing on is the one where Genji was nerfed. It is not the brand new patch with the tanks being nerfed. It is the Genji being nerfed, which is why you're probably not going to see much Genji play, and it has opened up the scrim repertoire for a lot of these teams to be able to practice and play in matches a lot of stuff that we have so far never seen throughout this season. So I think everything has been thrown into turmoil a little bit, considering that we have Zarya, Brig, Genji, Tracer are all removed, and also the small changes that we've seen in the most recent patch.
The thing that I find interesting here, by the way, look at the Vancouver starting lineup. Okay, they just swapped it up. I was going to say, you saw Dalton Gecko, and you think back to the debut, if they were going to run Echo, you'd think it would be Shockwave, but instead, it's double hit scan, and the Fuel taking the fight right to Vancouver, immediately punishing KSA, and I mean, that was a lot of aggression for the Fuel.
And Doha's got a really nice Junkrat as well, so I love this look from them. The Junkrat and the McCree, we've seen how powerful it can be. Vancouver Titans as well, they actually did run this in their previous match against the Florida Mayhem, but they've decided not to opt for it this time, instead running that double hit scan. But Shockwave just couldn't find the shots. Playing up on this high ground is now going to get pressured by Paintbrush as well, and surely is not going to... Oh, he does actually survive. He manages to get out with the Culture Gun.
Paintbrush just keeps doing these great escapes. It's actually crazy over the last 2 days. But now the Fuel in control of the point. Vancouver gonna be rotating around potentially over the left side, looking for a way open. Shockwave already on the flank, a decent window for damage. Onigod got picked off by Dalton. Now Vancouver up on a 6-on-5, but they need to be swift here, Josh.
Yeah, they've got to capitalize on this advantage. They're trying to power forwards and punish the tank line, who took a lot of damage. But so much of this composition relies on Shockwave and Dalton hitting key fights from different angles. Shockwave finds his first pick, I believe, of the map, as Dalton continues to pile in damage with the rest of his tank line, and they've managed to convert this.
It was a nice double flank between the two hit scan. They landed the shots they needed to hit. Crimzo gets staggered a little bit later, and I mean, this is a great turnaround for Vancouver. And one thing I'm gonna note: you're running double hit scan. I feel like Doha's life landing this tire gets a lot harder.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because there aren't any safe areas on the map, because Shockwave is firing from the high ground and Dalton's playing with his tank line. So no matter which way you go about it, you're gonna be met with some hit scan. They're just zoning them at the moment, though.
Yeah, just buying time. I mean, it's still a good trade for Vancouver. They're adding time onto that clock, and the Fuel kind of looking a little bit sluggish right now, Josh.
It is a bit weird to use your Ant Matrix and your Deadeye. Here we go. They're going to aim to have the tire just spring out. I thought from the hole in the ground, but let's see whether they can find any value.
Got Dalton. It was a great angle. Onigod gets a clean up on the side, and I like that approach of the Fuel. In the end, it looked a little bit slow, but they set it up. They gave Doha time to set up the tire, and it was sneaky and effective.
Very effective, especially because we were just saying how difficult it is for that tire to be able to find value. I like the fact that Dallas made space for the tire too. You can't tire from a long way away, otherwise obviously it's going to get killed on its long journey. But if Dallas have already pushed Doha in underneath the point, then they'll find that a much more manageable task.
Onigod, Deadeye set up by the halt. Easy assassination of Shredlock, and this puts Vancouver in such a tough spot. Already down 2 people, but Shockwave and KSA, they start turning around. The Flux sets up Shockwave, and now KSA ready to go. And this is where Sigma's turned scrappy fights.
That's such a good play, but Onigod and Gamsu, if Gamsu can't get taken down here, and neither can Onigod, KSA's just kind of stuck between them, and Shockwave dies as well. Great 1v1 from Paintbrush. Oh, there's a pause coming out here in a pivotal time. This fight, I feel like it could still go either way. The Vancouver Titans are getting people in off the spawn, and yet Dallas was still able to pick up kills. A very weird engagement there that looked like it was almost certainly going the way of the Titans once KSA's Flux had come out.
Yeah, and I mean, props also to Paintbrush towards the very end there. We're taking that battle versus a player like Shockwave. It's not easy. Even with environment on your side, it's still risky. But, a key elimination there. It stops Shockwave from going off on a rampage, getting another 2 or 3. And, I mean, it's scrappy play from both sides. And, now as we're paused, I do feel it's time for a little bit of disclaimer. Josh, I did talk with Wolf later in the day. I probably brought it into the match with me. I'm sorry. I should know better.
You really should. I enjoy, though, seeing a pause and seeing all of the little player cams as they have to deal with this situation, because it's frustrating for all of them as well. But I especially enjoy watching Gamsu because he looks so professional in all of these situations. I just saw him sip from a glass of water, and I feel like he's one of the only people in the Overwatch League I would trust to have an actual glass of water at their playing station. Everyone else has these water bottles that, they fill up. They're very rugged. They can take getting slapped off the desk when you flail around with your mouse. Instead, Gamsu, he's got a little champagne flute with some water in it, and he just sips elegantly at the side. He's a refined and mature individual.
Some of these players are so focused on the game, Josh, that other necessities of life kind of passing by. I mean, we've had players in the Overwatch League that proudly show their home streaming setups, and then you would expect to see a PC and it's just like a motherboard connected to a processor, and nothing really makes sense. It's just out there. It's like, oh, I'll put it in a case later. It's like, no, that's not how any of this works. But hey, genius does make some sacrifices. But to your point, I would also trust Gamsu with a bottle of water. I think he's earned it over the years.
Yeah, he's obviously one of the players for the Dallas Fuel that has that kind of mature, responsible head on his shoulders that you would entrust to kind of create a good system for a team. I think that's one of the reasons that he was brought in. Obviously had a lot of success in the past, even back to previous titles before he was even involved in the Overwatch League as well. So, I always respect this guy, and I always want him to do well when he's in teams. And obviously, Dallas have had a really rough go about it recently. There's been a lot of turmoil within the Dallas camp. They've had to make some large changes as well. They mutually agreed to part ways with Decay, whatever way you want to say that. They removed Decay from the team, and he's ended up going over to the Justice. And the Dallas Fuel look like they're in a bit of a turning point, desperately trying to hang on to these games towards the end of the regular season and make like one last hurrah towards the playoffs before some big changes happen for 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a player in the team right now, right, you're still very much wanting to make an impact in the season. Not because if you look at it deep down, obviously every player goes, I want to win. I think some might be more realistic, but the reality is that you look at Dallas as a team, you look at their trajectory, and I think you would be foolish to think otherwise to the idea that the Fuel will probably have one of the bigger roster shakeups from the end of the season into the 2021 season. So if you're a Fuel player right now, you want to make your mark and show, look, I should still be on this team. But now, Josh, we're back into the game, and we'll see how long Fuel can hold on. Not long.
Well, not long. They immediately lost control of the point, which perhaps wouldn't have happened if there wasn't a pause there, but they're going to gracefully retreat and regroup and get ready to go back into this engagement. It's especially important for Onigod as well, right? Like, he's one of those people that has come in playing on high ping like a lot of the Vancouver Titans players and has been performing at a pretty decent level and really wants to get his name out there as somebody that, even should Dallas choose not to pick him up next season, somebody in the Overwatch League should.
Absolutely. Now Vancouver, though, they're applying the pressure. Onigod, Gamsu, both down. Gamsu got caught early, and the shield presence just not there for the Fuel. 94% to go. The Fuel cannot retreat. They must stay on the point here and now. Crimso again dropped the Amp Matrix, but Note falls, and the Fuel just get bullied back. Noel went back to that early swift pickoff on the Gamsu.
Yeah. A really nice flux from KSA was part of what set that up. And the Vancouver Titans, again, coming out and looking pretty good on Oasis. This was the map that they ended up taking away from the Florida Mayhem when they played against them this week. And
Josh.
Hello.
It's happening. It's happening. Doha has swapped to the Sombra.
The Doha Sombra. Doha, in my opinion, is one of the elite level Sombras that we have in the Overwatch League. He's on the same kind of level as your Lip, your Dante, maybe you'd have Hisu in that discussion after his good performance in the Countdown Cup. But Doha really is up there with the best of the best. His time in Contenders, he was fantastic. So I'm interested to see what he can get done here.
Yeah, and it is a different setup. I mean, back in Contenders, he had his entire team pocketing him. It was an era where you threw everything behind the Sombra, and the Sombra built an EMP instantly. It's a little bit different, but all the instincts should still be there. And we'll see if this is what the Fuel have been waiting for. Shredlock, though, going to start things off. The Vancouver team looking for the aggression early on. And Shredlock getting really nice heals, but how long can he sustain? Not for long. Gets caught on the leap away. The Fuel, meanwhile, still very healthy. But one thing of note, Doha struggling to build much EMP there.
Yeah, a little bit. I think he was just harassing and looking for a hack, because this is actually very similar to a meta we saw in APAC at the beginning of the season. We've seen this Sombra Reaper come out before, and this is a Sombra Reaper rush composition. It's just got the Orisa instead of the Reinhardt that was prevalent at that time. It has great ult cycling, and crucially, Doha's hacks can just allow you to rush down any target on the other team. So I think Doha was just aiming to try and get a hack on somebody there and didn't quite manage to pull it off.
Well, now he's going to have more opportunities as the Fuel are on the defense. And, they turn into the offense in a hurry. They drop the Cole. Crimso on the hot pursuit, but the juice is about to be fading here. And now goes back. Gets the heals to Gamsu just in the nick of time. Vancouver looking for the entry right now. Shockwave off the clone, going for the Death Blossom, takes down Paintbrush. And Vancouver still pretty healthy as they move in. The Fuel don't really find a great opening, and they're going to save the EMP for the next fight.
That's a great duplicate there coming out from Shockwave. He seems to be so intelligent with how he uses them. He is one of those DPS players that likes to copy the opposing team's DPS. We've seen him play the Genji, we've seen him play, I think, a bit of Tracer and now Reaper as well. Not in this match, but just generally speaking. And he's just been great at every hero he seems to duplicate. And that's another one. He gets big value there out of the Reaper, just cloning Onigon and doing more than he did in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a comfort pick for Shockwave. Both teams playing to their strengths. Shockwave on the Echo, Doha on the Sombra. But now the EMP is good to go. Dalton drops EMP first, hits 2 in the back. Doha, the counter EMP, striking 2. Shredlock had Primal up, so EMP or no is able to get away. Now Karkar drops the beat. Vancouver re-engaging into the Fuel. Beat, though, out from Dallas. Both teams laying all the ultimates on the line. And the Fuel looking a little bit healthier right now as they look to get control of the point and start pushing Vancouver out.
Yeah, Fuel with a much more sustainable rush composition with the Moira and the Lucio just for being able to provide all that healing. And even though there is a Moira and a Lucio over for the Vancouver Titans, you can't really heal a Winston that easily with the Moira because the Winston's constantly got to run away from the Reaper on the Dallas Fuel. And you can't really heal the Echo that easily with the Moira either. So the Vancouver Titans comp just doesn't synergize as well with that healing. It makes Dallas Fuel much more tanky, much more sustainable in the middle of these team fights. Whereas Titans have to rely on very good dives and pinches with Shockwave and Dalton. They're doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
It reminds me of Paris, except substitute XE for Shockwave, where you're looking for Shockwave to do the miracles and do the impossible. Now the clone, Reaper, into the back, trying to build a quick Death Blossom. This time focused down early, and there's the real Death Blossom in for Onigon, and immediately focused down. Wow. Shockwave does not care. 30 HP in a dream, able to float right back out, and now Vancouver, Josh, they get hit right back onto the point.
What an enormous focusing beam, and even though the EMP comes out and hits 4 players, it is way too late for Doha to be investing that ultimate in. 99% for the Dallas Fuel, but they've reset a lot of their ults. Going to be coming back in with the Supercharger, but the Vancouver Titans have a lot of pieces to the puzzle here to be able to just rotate things around and hold on to this point for quite a while. The Vancouver Titans, if you look at the ults, are actually set up much better to be able to win this round if they're able to cycle ults effectively.
The Fuel are in a really tough spot. I mean, they have to hope that Dalton's EMP is not good in the least. A good EMP probably spells the end of the game here. Dalton looking for the counter hack, just barely translocates away on the other end. Now, over and in, drops the EMP, hits 4, it's a meaty EMP. The Cole coming out immediately right after, and the Fuel crumbling one by one. And look at the progress here, Josh. The Fuel do not have much time.
Now, the Vancouver Titans, though, did use both of their support ultimates and the EMP, so that's a really large investment from Vancouver. But Dallas need to touch the point. I mean, that's the first step. Doha's going to be able to touch and back off, but they need to actually get there and formulate some kind of stance, some presence, a hold.
Doha just barely stays alive. Shredlock finds Doha off the translocator, sends Doha into the abyss. An incredible primal. And now the Fuel in danger. They can't rely on Doha. They just have 5 versus the Vancouver 6. And Shockwave, the Cole from the back, the cloned Moira, back into Echo we go. Onigon later into the fray. Shredlock is down. The Death Blossom locked, ready to go, waiting for the Diva Matrix to go away. And the Fuel have somehow, some way, brought this back from the brink. The front line just so effective.
Onigon doing a lot of work in the middle of that team fight, and Gamsu and Note were never punished. It was a nice attempt from Shockwave, but he just didn't quite get the value with his ultimate that he would have wanted. And Shredlock as well. The Primal finds Doha, but doesn't really disrupt the structure of the Dallas Fuel's Orisa composition as it comes towards the point, and they managed to clutch it. Very different styles from both teams. But we head into our final round of Oasis, and honestly, anything could happen. We could still see the Doha Farah coming out here. I still can't predict what these two teams are running. They have very different takes on the meta.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of chaos incarnate, but you do get this anytime you enter into a new hero pool. From the looks of it, it does look like the Fuel will be putting Doha back onto the Sombra, and based on what we saw before, I wouldn't be surprised to see Shockwave on the Echo. And I do love this, Josh, the idea of players playing their signature heroes again, looking good on them. It's what you love to see.
Yeah, definitely. We've got Onigon coming out here on the legs, so they're going to be trying to take control of the high ground here, establish a presence for Onigon to rain damage from above, whereas the rest of the Vancouver Titans want to play outside of line of sight and look for hacks and dive targets. Onigon is a really good dive target if they're able to hack him or just get some presence onto him with Shredlock and KSA.
The position there is interesting. Gives a lot of room to maneuver. Shredlock already caught out here. And the thing about the compositions that Fuel are running here, Josh, they're just so tanky on the point that if Vancouver doesn't get an early elimination, they just kind of lose the sustain battle, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Vancouver also, if they were playing with an Ana, could play the longer, slower fight to try and play with a Nana boost onto Shredlock. But instead, they're playing with the Moira Lucio. The Moira Lucio, like I've said, it doesn't synergize particularly well with Shredlock and Shockwave. But I think they're running it just because they want more survivability for their backline. Just concerned about perhaps Doha and his hacks and what he's going to be able to do in the back.
Well, they also should be concerned about Doha and his EMP built up relatively quickly this time around. Doha under a bit of pressure. Likely going to wait. Healed back up. Now Vancouver retaking here in City Center. Not the easiest. Doha's going to have a lot of room to set the EMP. In over the top. Here we go. EMP's big. The follow through immediate. And that was poetry in motion from the Fuel.
Pretty wonderful. A minimal ult investment as well. Just the EMP. And the Coalescence being used there for the Dallas Fuel. And that Coalescence will charge up very quickly as well. For the Vancouver Titans, they're going to make a swap now. McCree coming out. So a bit more of a slow-paced composition with more plink-plonking from the low ground to the high ground. But hello, we're live, presumably. No. Replay?
No,
live?
this is the replay. I think that's the replay. I am...
Yeah, okay.
No, that was the replay. We are back to live.
We're back to live now. I was wondering what was happening there because Shockwave was back on the Echo. I was like, we must have gone back in time here.
Well, he's back in spawn now, so don't worry about too much. First to fall, Onigon in from the top. The Fuel looking much more composed this round, 85% to 0. And Vancouver might be heading out with a whimper here on map 1. Tackvisor in from Onigon. The tracking, of course, all automatic. And the Fuel just on cleanup at this point. And for Vancouver, I don't think they can delay this for much longer here, Josh.
No, the writing appears to be on the wall. There's nobody really for the Vancouver Titans that even has that much clutch potential. The Shockwave McCree swap was interesting, but I think inevitably doomed to fail. Kaka, so desperate to get to the point with the sound barrier, but just countered immediately by the EMP. That removes your sound barrier, that removes your wall riding, yet you're a lump on the floor. And the poor frog is taken down, and Dallas Fuel go up to a 2-1 lead on Oasis and take the map.
I do like what the Fuel ran on that last round there. Where City Center, of course, one of the more notoriously hard areas to retake a control map just because there's so much room to move around, run, use high ground, and they swap to a 76, a hero that you don't see as often in the Overwatch League, and I think Onigod played it quite well.
Yeah, pretty decent performance. I mean, especially with that highlight where he gets, what was it, like a triple kill Helix rocket after the EMP had come out from Doha. But more so for me, I'm just happy that we are seeing the level of coordination be there from the Dallas Fuel. The last time these two teams faced off, the Vancouver Titans came out with a win, and it felt like Dallas weren't in the game mentally. It felt like they weren't there giving their all and with a sense and a motivation to win and to work together to succeed. Whereas in this match, they actually look like they're putting some plays together pretty well.
Well, the Fuel are up 1-0 over Vancouver, perhaps looking to send a statement to the world that they're on the rebound. However, can Vancouver turn things around and take the Fuel to the task? We'll find out in just a few moments.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile.
And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
The crazy compositions continue as the Fuel take map 1 over Vancouver, but now we head to a map very recently infamous for Dallas. We head over into Eichenwald. And Josh, a question I think on everyone's mind right now is, do we see the Pharah again, or does Dallas pivot?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question, honestly, because it's the same two maps, Oasis and then Eichenwald, as in the most recent Fuel series where they played against the Gladiators. Now, they ended up losing that series 0-3, but what I took away more so than just, oh, Dallas are playing badly, was the composition that they played. The Dallas Fuel's composition, where they played Pharah Ashe for pretty much the entirety of Oasis and Eichenwald, was with like an Ana Mercy backline, was an interesting take on the meta. And I think what we've seen so far, ZP, from APAC and from North American games this week, is that the meta is not solved by any means. No one really planned for Zarya Brigade and G-Tracer being removed. No one had an immediate answer to what the meta should be. And it seems like a lot of different teams have got different takes. It seems like, though, Dallas, having lost 3-0 to the Gladiators, have opted away from the Pharah. I think it was just putting too much pressure on Doha to perform and made it a bit too easy for a star DPS, hit-scan DPS player on the other side to shut the strat down.
I think that's always valuable, though, at the very least, where, okay, you have a pretty bad loss, but you can go away from it and go, okay, maybe we don't run that again. Let's re-examine what we're going to do, change to something else. Now, we'll see if that's actually the case, but given what we just saw as map 1, as you mentioned, it very well might be. And also, I think you look over the course of the season. He's back.
I'm just looking at the Bastion. I mean, I don't know whether I doubt they're gonna run it, ZP, but it's already given me flashbacks. Like it's only been an hour, and I've already got it deeply ingrained in my brain. That series we just watched from Paris and Atlanta is gonna haunt me for weeks. Anytime I see a Bastion, I'm gonna get shivers down my spine.
Well, he hasn't swapped yet. It is the attackers, though, so yeah, that's a little bit more normal. We're not going to deal with the robot apocalypse again, although this would be one of the stranger swaps in a way. I mean, it still could be effective, but you go from flying Junkrat to Junkrat.
Sure, is that what you're saying? Pharah is a flying Junkrat?
In a way, yes, a little bit more direct, but no, the Junkrat isn't happening. Instead,
right.
The Sombra comes out, and the Dallas Fuel have officially pivoted from their last Eichenwald.
Yeah, Dallas going with the same team comp that we saw previously. Oh, looks like Doha's going to make the swap over to... Okay. We're going to see full-scale swaps actually here. And Dallas Fuel go for a full poke comp. So this is a long-range composition designed to break shields and then push in. It might be a little difficult for the Titans to deal with this, unless Shockwave hits a lot of shots so they build up immediate EMPs.
Dalton's getting some pretty serious build here so far. The question is, can Vancouver get pickoff and hold Dallas back before they get to that point? The Fuel know they're better with the early aggression, and Dalton's down. The EMP threat already gone. The Fuel still looking healthy. And this is tough for Vancouver, where once more, Josh, they look to Shockwave and look for Sucker.
Yeah. Crimzo has fallen, separated from the rest of his team, though. A bit of miscoordination there from the Dallas Fuel as their backline got a wedge driven in between it at the front line. And Dallas are now in a scrappy situation where KSA is just going around, seeing if he can get kills.
Vancouver, I mean, they just kind of brawl it out at the end where Dallas had an advantage there, and Vancouver just stayed together, had good heals, and it just seemed like the Dallas Fuel dropped one by one.
Yeah, Dallas, I think, really messed up their positioning once they had the advantage in that fight. Doha had already swung out left, and Gamsu had pushed really far forwards as well, but they hadn't escorted their admittedly very squishy backline into a good position. So Crimzo fell as the first casualty in that fight. And now with ults up, things start to favor the Titans a little more, because we're going to be getting close to that EMP.
Nope, looking for the flux. I'm not sure that caught anything.
No, missed.
Didn't have the greatest view, but it looked like nothing. Now Doha. Tire ready to go. 5 seconds left. Using the tower. Shockwave's already got one. This Tire must equalize. Takes down Rolf, and it gets rid of the healing, but I'm not sure that's enough, Josh. Vancouver, flux of their own. Applying the pressure now to the Fuel. Now remember, the healing's a little bit less, so you need to end this fight quickly. Shockwave gets one, Shockwave with two. I think the Vancouver Titans should still be okay.
Yeah, they should be fine here. They're going to be able to take down Paintbrush. And note, really the key difference maker there, in my opinion, was the flux coming out from KSA. It perfectly found its way onto Crimzo, and when everyone else on the Dallas Fuel was peeling for Crimzo, all of the heals were going into him. All of the shielding was going into him. Instead of trying to kill Crimzo, who was behind a corner, instead they just piled into Gamsu, knowing that all of that heal was not available for the Orisa. So smart play from the Vancouver Titans, and Shockwave gets the credit for that kill. They've managed to hold on here and force Doha onto the Mei. Dallas are struggling.
The EMP hitting 6. The Fuel, though, they retreat. They drop the Immortality Field a little bit later. They still have a full 5, and I mean, this does not work out super well at all for Vancouver. They lose Shredlock. The disengage and re-engage by the Fuel, very, very clean here thus far.
Yeah, a bit too slow to capitalize on the EMP, and Dallas Fuel just have so many ults to be able to mitigate this. It looks like they're going to easily be able to take control here. Unless Karkar can go huge. Nope, not quite. Crimzo takes that casualty.
Not quite FD God there, and even then, that would have been a tall task. The Fuel, though, I mean, it still comes at a cost, Josh. It took them a very long time just to get point A.
Yeah, what was that, like 3.5 minutes for them to be able to take point A? Hasn't been particularly promising so far, and their composition is not good for being able to tackle the high ground. Vancouver Titans can hold up here, poke for a while, and then just drop at any point once Dalton has generated a bit more AP or found a hack target from on high. Interesting that we're seeing Karkar on Mercy. That implies a very defensive, static composition. I don't know whether I'm a fan.
Well, they will be able to res Shockwave immediately. I think Shockwave is a little bit more aggro there, knowing the Mercy. But the problem is the Fuel, they know they have a window, and they just get more aggressive. They look for the frontline dominance. They deal with KSA, they deal with Shredlock, and that was a well-timed push while the Resurrection was in progress.
Yeah, the Mercy offers you damage boost onto Shockwave, but it puts so much more pressure and responsibility onto Shockwave too, because now you've lost your ability to disengage and re-engage quickly because you have no Lucio, and you don't have the Zen, so you can't just take a shield battle. So instead, you are just going to slowly lose unless Shockwave pops off.
Yeah, again, it reminds me a lot of Paris earlier in the day with Xe, just not quite as good. Now, the Immortality Field already down. The Vancouver trying to get through the gate, and it just does not happen. The Fuel covering both entries, and, you know, Vancouver couldn't really make that a fight.
Yeah, as long as point A took, point B was absolutely rapid there. A nice attempt from Dalton to find a hack and kill onto Crimzo before he had his trance online, but he just couldn't find it. Paintbrush had the good peel with that Immortality Field, and they are making some rapid pace. There's 3 minutes left on the clock, so with a Bob online to be able to make some space, and then a Blizzard for the payload or maybe for the corner, Dallas
all about the EMP.
in a winnable position.
They drop the EMP, it hits 5, and this time will the fall through be there? Doha got the Blizzard off right before, and the Fuel still looking healthy, still looking whole. The EMP fall through for Vancouver so far is lacking.
Karkar is playing this so riskily, and he dies trying to heal the bomb. I don't understand that gameplay. Dallas Fuel are going to roll around this corner and set up a really good position. As long as nobody overextends, they should be easily getting this payload in.
Yeah, last little bit of delay. KSA immediately down. Don't think Karkar is going to be around here for long. Vancouver just too deep into the hole. But they do have the Hammond, buying a surprising amount of time here thus far. The Fuel, though, still in an enormous advantage, and that's going to be it. And for how this started, Josh, that is an insane time here at Eichenwald.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. They had 30 seconds left to be able to capture point A, and then they have 2 minutes left to at the end of the map entirely. Eichenwald's a difficult map to even complete no matter what. That's... I think that's pretty disappointing from the Vancouver Titans there. They made the wrong adaptations, in my opinion, when it came to their composition, and I think they misplayed the ults as well. I mean, they didn't wait to peel the Blizzard coming out from Doha, and instead they just EMP'd. But, all right, an EMP comes out from Dalton, but who can possibly follow up on it if there's a Blizzard in front of you? You can't cross the Blizzard to kill the players that have been EMP'd. So... The timing was all sorts of off there with their point C defense. But I think this brings up a larger point, ZP, which is that with the meta being in flux right now and being kind of chaotic and a lot of different comps being viable until people figure out what's best, we're seeing which teams can adapt on the fly better than others. And Paris struggled to adapt to the Bastion, and now it seems like the Titans are struggling to adapt to this Dallas Fuel rush style.
And they don't seem comfortable with it either. I would just go back to the EMP and say that entire defense round was a tale of two EMPs. The EMP you just covered, and then you think to how Vancouver lost point A. They had a big EMP, but it almost felt like Dalton was going for the largest amount of people, but the coordination with the rest of the team wasn't there, so you see everyone get hacked. But then not everyone falls, and that happened basically twice, and that really shifted the round in favor of Dallas.
I assume this is just a scouting composition for the Vancouver Titans. It doesn't make any sense if you want to actually run it to attack, so Titans are going to come back into the point and figure out what we're going to run here. Karkon moves over to the Batiste. Yeah, this is a full-on poke comp. This is even more poke than the Dallas Fuel had previously, because now they have the Ashe and the McCree. These shields, for Dallas, they're going to get destroyed so fast.
For Dallas, it has to be all about the wall here, looking for good splits from Doha. All right, Dalton takes down Onigod immediately. That puts Dallas in a real tough spot. Now, your main source of damage is May, and you really need a great wall to get the splits. Vancouver, though, still pretty healthy. KSA saved by the Immortality Field, healed right back up. The Fuel getting pushed back in a true 6-on-5. Shockwave gets Paintbrush, and this could be the end.
Some big individual picks here. Dallas are trying to take advantage of their composition and just speed boost in. But this flank from Dalton, not usually the Ashe player for the team, but he's managed to find some work here. Shockwave and Dalton pairing together to deliver their team a couple of early opening kills, both onto Onigod and Paintbrush, and they managed to win the concluding fight. 5 minutes. Could not be more different to the Dallas Fuel's attack.
I think what you saw there with how the Fuel needed to play that, where they needed the good May wall-offs, they needed Onigod also to be the damage behind. You lose your McCree early, it's just so hard to adapt, Josh.
Yeah, it's pretty much impossible at that point, because even if you do get really good May walls and you isolate somebody, say you isolate KSA, you probably don't have the damage to be able to take him down, so you have to play perfectly to win that 5-6. Now Shockwave's on the Hanzo, so I mean, we talk about poke, it just keeps getting more and more poke. They have outrageous damage potential coming out from the Titans.
More and more spines just keep evolving on the Vancouver apparatus. And Onigod, though, this time takes down the Hanzo. Doesn't bother him, the range difference there at all. And Onigod now, a little bit of redemption, falls to the bomb. But this is a decent delay coming out right now from the Fuel. But Vancouver, though, starting to fight it back to a degree, keeping pressure here on this archway and just waiting for respawns, where they'll have a bit of an edge.
And for Dallas running this Batiste Lucio comp, like you said, ZP, it's all about speed boost engagements with that wall to find an early pick. If they can't make the fights happen quickly, they'll lose the slow fights. The Vancouver Titans have a squishy backline, they have squishy DPS. Oh, but if Doha dies like that, that's not helpful.
That was a very aggressive May play there. It did not quite work out. And Vancouver now in the process of cleanup, Dallas in the process of delay. But in terms of time, this is not bad at all for Vancouver, still ahead of the pace that Dallas set.
Yeah, we'll forget that one ever happened, Rolf. Don't even worry about it. Those Lucio's slippery targets. He's going to combine with the rest of his team here. Let's take a look at this replay from Dalton as well, where he just cleans up a couple of players, I think, in the middle of this fight. But going into the next engagement, too, they're in a position where oh, hello. Dallas are up on the high ground. So they're looking for a speed boost engage with the Blizzard, maybe? Trying to bait the Titans forwards?
Well, right now they're just looking for Shredlock. Got the Immortality Field, but the pressure's still going to be there. Shredlock, though, getting healed back up. The initiation from the Fuel works out in the end. Still gets Shredlock. He wasn't able to get away, and that's going to delay Vancouver by quite a bit.
Yeah, it was a nice May wall coming out from Doha. They still needed to invest the Amp Matrix to finish him off in the end, but it was still pretty good. Dallas Fuel are using the advantages of their composition here. They have a Lucio. They can speed boost around the map very quickly. They can go from high ground to the point, to the objective, to the bridge. They can maneuver around the map much better. But look at the positioning now of Shockwave. If he's able to get an off angle and find a pick, if he opens things up here, it will be devastating for the Fuel.
I think for the Fuel, you see Shockwave back there, you initiate now, you limit the amount of time, and that's exactly what they do. Both supports down immediately, and Shockwave still gets his pound of flesh in the back. The difference is, though, is that the Fuel have been so decisive that it's still going to make it hard for Vancouver to win this fight, even if Shockwave does that.
Shockwave finds a pick, and he was forcing people into the...
No, what?
What am I watching?
Oh...
See,
the
Pete, today has
actual
been
strategy.
a heartbreaker and a brain breaker in many, many different ways. But I couldn't give you a breakdown of what just occurred. I don't quite understand how they didn't regroup on the objective there.
Objective good, don't stand on objective, other team capped objective in Caveman.
Thank you.
That's all you really, all you really need to know. Also, fire burns. But now, Flux into KSA. Onidad though, Deadeye, finds Shockwave. And the Fuel just looking to stabilize and get themselves back in it after an unforced error, really.
This supercharger should be pretty big. Immortality Field is powerful from Karkar. It's behind a corner where people can't really break it. But they've still got that Amp Matrix up, and they're doing damage from them around the corner. Great Halt Flux there as well. Under both the players in the back line, and Note just gets stuck in.
And this is so nice for Dallas, where they get to secure the castle, where, you know, one of the best ways of taking point C, Josh, is having momentum, and now it's gone. The Fuel have fully stopped things.
They have stopped things, and they'll continue if Doha gets a really early tire. But otherwise, the Vancouver Titans are getting close to a lot of big ultimates. An Amp Matrix to be able to clear people away and push the Dallas Fuel back to optimal range for their backline. A Transcendence to be able to keep people alive if things get weird. Oh, but this is just so perfect from Doha.
2 down already. No one expects a Junkrat outside of the gates. Certainly not Vancouver there. And think about all the time that's gonna buy the Fuel here. It's big.
Yeah, and they forced out Rolf's Transcendence. I don't know why Rolf used the Transcendence. That was a GG go next kind of fight. Oh, he's going to the Ana. I don't get this. I don't think this makes any sense. There's no one you would want to Nana boost. There's no extra healing that's really required. And you miss out on the shield break and the Discord Orb. I feel like this is a struggle to adapt again coming out here for the Vancouver Titans.
I guess on some level, Rolf was just dreaming of the craziest Bionade ever. But first,
yep, I mean, Bionade is useful, but I don't think you're going to be able to get easy ones.
No, I fully agree. I think it's weird. And oh, the tire on the way in, KSA down. The Fuel continuing to hold off Vancouver. And you take a look at even the ult side of it, right? Is that I'm not even sure Rolf gets a nano before time's up. It's only a minute left now for Vancouver.
Yeah, this isn't the same as running it with a Winston Diva comp or a Winston Zarya comp where you can just charge.
And now he's off
Okay, he moves away. Yeah, he's just completely decided to abandon that. Is Paintbrush looking for another boop on these players as they come in? No, just doing a little bit of early scouting. Knows that the Vancouver Titans are coming in through the castle here. Dallas have so many ults to be able to defend with, though.
Yeah, Dallas, I mean, they're in position of power. This is where, for Vancouver to keep this map in contest, Dallas has to mess up, and Vancouver just has to have crazy good plays. They need both, and not just one. And I'll see if the Fuel can just finish it off. Deadeye finds Karkar. Crim's already down, kind of rough. But Note uses the Flux beautifully, drops him down. It's a meaty Flux there, Josh, and that should be it.
Yeah, only 10 seconds left, and if Karkar can touch the point, he'll get taken down very easily. Only good with a bit of style there as well. Shockwave just knows that it's over. Karkar adds another death to the statistics, and that's going to be Dallas Fuel taking us to what is a fairly easy 2-0. I know that the first map was pretty close, but more and more we've seen throughout this first half of the series that the Vancouver Titans struggle as soon as things get a little bit outside of the playbook. They are not adapting as well as the Dallas Fuel are.
Yeah, I think once you get Vancouver off plan, the cracks begin to show. And I mean, what better opportunity to look at that than the weird swap coming in from Rolf towards the end of that Eichenwald, right? Where you swap to Ana, which I fully agree, I think was a weird swap to begin with. And then you don't even stick with it. You go, oh, this isn't working. You go to the BAP. I mean, this is kind of indicative of a team right now that's still searching for this identity in the meta and trying to see what sticks. And it's unfortunate to be doing that in the middle of a match against an opponent that looks a lot more composed right now in the Dallas Fuel.
Yeah, and it was Dallas Fuel that had to make those adjustments in their previous series, losing North 3 to the Gladiators and figuring out that comp didn't work. But now Dallas have got to a position where they're playing some double shield stuff, and they actually look like they have a clue.
Yeah, and if you're a Dallas fan, you're getting some optimism. You've been fooled before, but right now the Fuel, they're up 2-0, and we'll see if the halftime show gives us a little bit more insight on what just happened.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Groups. Deep flavor, deep crunch, It's a mind crunch.
Welcome to our second game break of the day, presented by Pringles. Wavy Zoe here, joined by Costa as well as Reinforce. And, well, let's discuss the matches. Costa, I need you to start here since you decided in our pre-show to flip-flop. And you abandoned the Dallas Fuel and you felt like you should believe in the Titans. And quite frankly, honestly, first map, first round, that didn't look bad. It just kind of crumbled after that. When did it all fall apart for you and your team?
I think you really have to highlight the second round of that map. It really looked like the Vancouver Titans were going to take it. The Dallas Fuel used all of their ultimates on that Oasis Gardens section, and the Vancouver Titans had like 3 ultimates to win it. Dallas had nothing. And this is sort of highlights a lot of the issues that the Vancouver Titans have had. They sort of come in. We saw Shockwave take over the Moira and utilize that ultimate when he couldn't help anyone else. He wasn't even utilizing the healing. They use their ultimates completely separate. It feels like when push comes to shove, they seem to fall apart and they don't adapt or they don't make the right decisions. And then we saw them go straight to City Center and they just got hard counted. They didn't know how to adapt to it. They tried to send Shockwave to the McCree and he just gets caught out instantly, nowhere near the rest of his team. So the pieces are there for the Vancouver Titans, but their struggle has always been stringing it together.
Yeah,
and then we headed on to Eichenwalde.
Yes, we headed into Eichenwalde and
sorry.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if you're jumping in. I don't know.
Yeah, there was some wacky noises going on. It's all good. We're moving on to map 2 and Eichenwalde, and I mean it started out pretty rough for the Dallas Fuel, and I think part of the reason why might be because you played Junkrat on attack, okay? We saw Saucy try to pull it off on Route 66. Not really ideal, okay? It took some time to charge the tire, and it was a similar problem here for the Dallas Fuel. So they flexed over to the May on attack, and that's actually when the Fuel really got going. And they stuck to this May throughout the map and actually managed to complete Eichenwalde on the back of Doha's great May play as well. So it seemed like this might be the road moving forward for the Dallas Fuel. Maybe put Doha on this May on attack ground so you can actually shut down the enemy tank line. You can actually find something to engage around, considering Paintbrush is playing the Lucio. And then as well, on defense, you can maybe shift away from May and maybe try to make the Junkrat work. I think you have to be a bit more methodical about your hero picks and in what situations you're picking them, because it can be so hard to make Junkrat really work on attack rounds. It's much easier to make Junkrat work on defense rounds when you're peeling backwards, when you're backing off and letting the opponent come to you. That's when you can get a lot of Junkrat poke damage in. So I think we saw a clear identity shift when Doha picked the May instead of the Junkrat. And maybe that's a bit of a clue dropped for the Dallas Fuel moving forward, rest of the series, what they're going to be playing in the rest of the maps.
Well, let's take a look at our crunch time presented by Pringles Wavy. As you just talked about Doha at great length, let's just roll back some of his tape and take a closer look at one of his plays on Eichenwalde defense.
Yeah, this is a really great play, and we've seen people do this in this exact same spot. I think it was OGE who pulled this off on the Winston. This is Doha hiding as the Junkrat, just gets a really smart flank and kills 3 without utilizing a single ultimate. This was a
This is the worst.
Actually, never mind.
This just shouldn't work, actually.
This is a back-breaking moment for the Vancouver Titans as well. Like, when you are starting to get confidence, you're in the 3rd point, and when you lose a fight this convincingly for almost no ultimates, only a beat, the Dallas Fuel managed to charge up everything they had. They then managed to hold for the rest of the 2 minutes just on the back of this great play by Doha. And this is a confident play, and this is what we want to see by the Dallas Fuel. They look like they're in their element. I was really surprised with how well they came out and played in this match. It didn't look like they'd put a lot of practice into Farah, but they're seamlessly transitioning to this sort of Junkrat double shield style right now.
Yep. For sure.
I kind of want to get both of your thoughts here before we're done with our halftime. We do see a lot of Junkrat in this first series between Atlanta Reign as well against Paris. And now, once more, a lot of Junkrat. Why do you think that is? What makes this hero viable right now?
I mean, he's a pretty slow hero, right? If you think in terms of like game tempo, right? Because the entire thing is about slowing down the tempo, just getting as much spam out as you can before the enemy comes to you, right? So with Genji out of the pool and with Tracer out of the pool, there's a lack of heroes with that level of mobility who can close the distance onto Junkrat quickly and shut him down. So you have these slower heroes instead. You have to like grind your way towards the Junkrat. But it's taking so long for these teams to really engage that the Junkrat gets so much value out of the grenades. It builds up Riptide really fast. So, you know, maybe you could have used a Zarya and a Winston, but Zarya's also out of the hero pool. So a lot of the hero pool picks that are removed this week really just go into the favor of Junkrat, and I think he's here to actually be a mainstay over the next couple of weeks.
And you know what? I'm excited about that. I'm sure Jake somewhere just manifested that into existence, and I couldn't be happier because it makes for a lot of fun moments in game. Let's see if we get more of that in that second half, or if the Titans can start their comeback as we're heading over to Volskaya next.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor.
the Dallas Fuel are learning, adapting, and changing things up from day to day. A very different Fuel showing up today in their match against Vancouver, leading to the Fuel being up 2-0 after a half of play. Josh, this is just good adaptation coming in from the Fuel.
Yeah, this is exactly what you wanted to see if you're a Dallas Fuel fan and you're looking towards the end of the regular season. Because this team has made a lot of changes. They've had, a lot of turmoil within their camp. And so for them to come out, adapt very quickly from one map to the next within a week's gameplay, to dismiss compositions and strategies that weren't working very well for them, and to come out against a team that, remember, has beat them in the past, despite Vancouver Titans being at the bottom of the standings. Yeah, this is actually pretty promising stuff. It is kind of your minimum expectations, perhaps, for the Dallas Fuel to be able to beat a team like the Vancouver Titans, who, like I said, are towards the bottom of the standings. But you can't underestimate any of your opponents in the Overwatch League if you're in the middle of that pack.
Definitely not. And I mean, also, you still look at the fundamentals, right? I think a lot of Dallas Fuel fans, if they were looking at this match here, and even if the Fuel were winning these maps, but it was a struggle sticking with the Pharah that wasn't very effective yesterday, I think people would be afraid. But now they look at this and they go, wait, a lot of people were looking at the matchup yesterday, were going, Doha's a great Sombra player. Why not put Doha onto the Sombra? Why force this meta that doesn't even seem to be a thing? And, the Fuel, to their credit, they've seemingly learned. And unfortunately for Vancouver, they're the ones that have to receive the lesson that the Fuel just learned yesterday.
Absolutely. I think the Dallas are looking a lot more comfortable in terms of the compositions that they're playing right now. Obviously, still time in this series for Vancouver Titans to bounce back and make some developments of their own, make some adaptations. The halftime, the game break may have been fertile ground for those kind of seeds of adaptation to prosper. But also, I mean, Dallas have still got to do this against other opponents as well. This series isn't over yet, but neither is the regular season. And Dallas have still got some way to go to proving themselves and meeting the expectations of their fans coming into this season.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's really good perspective to add in here. We're just sort of like, all right, this is a win that you'd be really concerned if they didn't get it, but it still has to be one step. Because you look at the Vancouver on the other side, Vancouver's also a team that's working through a lot of things and just, trying to find the best, most potent combination before playoffs with a team that, did get thrown into the melee of the regular season on fairly short notice.
Absolutely. They're going to be defending here with an Ashe Sombra composition, a nice little attempt at the whole hook from the Dallas Fuel to see if they could catch out maybe a Sombra or an Ashe playing in forwards. It's normally the Ashe, actually, that plays that kind of forwards position to try and get a cheeky dynamite on the spawning players. But Shockwave decides to play it in a safe position back on point A. Dalton, though, is scouting, going to communicate to the rest of his team what composition is being run and see if he can drop into their backlines to do a little bit of damage.
A little bit of no! Nice. Dalton got caught, and this just makes it so tough for Vancouver now. And again, look to Shockwave. If you don't have a crazy Ashe performance here, it's not going to be brought back. Now, Onigod just took a headshot, and he goes down. Shockwave on it. To start, KSA, though, out of the fight. No, continuing to be so consistent for the Fuel, and puts an end to any hope of Vancouver bringing this one back.
Yeah, good solid cleanup stuff from Note there. But I want to give credit to Doha too, because he finds his way all the way around the back, finds the translocator from Dalton, removes that and sets his team up for the first pick. Then in the next, in the follow-up to the team fight, he hacks Karkar and delivers the second pick. So huge gameplay coming out from Doha in the opening moments here, and he's already 60% to his EMP. That's the momentum you need as a Sombra player.
Well, not only that, but on the other end, Dalton swapping to the Hanzo wholesale. I mean, hoping for a little bit more shield break, perhaps a pickoff, but this is a rough spot to be in, especially down rule. Vancouver once more facing a 5-on-6. Shockwave shields in his face. Dalton looking for Miracle Arrow. KSA down, and Vancouver's running out of time to change anything about this situation as it all just goes away. And that's going to be a very quick point B take here for the Fuel.
This is insanely rapid. 5 minutes and 4 seconds in the time bank for Dallas, and that was over before you could blink, before you could have a chance to talk about the Ashe Hanzo gameplay from the Vancouver Titans and what that might potentially do. The Dallas Fuel just wandered in through the front door, busted open, and decided to take control of the point.
Yeah, I mean, 5 minutes and 4 seconds on Volskaya. I don't know if that was quite speedrun territory, but that's all in terms of overall records. But, you know, I half wonder if that was close to top 10. That's very, very quick for this map. And you talk about the storyline here where Vancouver not only has to win Volskaya, Josh, or at least make it a draw, they also have to reverse sweep the rest of the way through. This was not the beginning, to say the least.
No, this was not the beginning that they were looking for whatsoever. I mean, very difficult stuff for them. Take a look at the replay as well here. Look at this halt. That's perfectly timed from Gamsu and Note. Destroys Rolf. There's a right click there, comes out from Crimzo as well. It's all just combined together to assassinate the backline of the Titans before they can get set up.
It's really nice coordination from the Fuel, and you know, in a way, I kind of feel like the Fuel have been gaining in strength as the series went on. You go back to map 1, it was a very close map 1, but you know, I feel like as you get to more setup maps, especially maps like Assault, you know, the cracks for Vancouver in their compositions, in their gameplay show more readily, and you know, the Fuel look even better by comparison.
Well, let's take a look and see if they can be just as good on the defense here and close things out in a very clean manner for their fans. We're in the McCree and the Sombra, which is a bit of a weird setup for Volskaya. It's a very long-range map, so you normally see people running the Ashe or the Widowmaker instead. But they're going for an aggressive play. They're trying to brawl.
Challenging Shockwave like that is risky. That easily could have won against Dallas. However, in this case, it doesn't. Doha gets enough poke damage, takes down Shockwave, and if Doha can stay alive at death's door right now, does. This is really, really good for the Fuel on their first defense.
So they're playing this kind of rush brawl composition here, where their intention with the Moira Lucio is to play fast and aggressive into the Vancouver Titans. Try and find a halt or a rock or a flash onto Shredlock as he's coming in through the chunk, or onto KSA actually, and be able to get a pick on one of these tanks before Shockwave can find his timings on the Widowmaker. You have to play fast against the Widowmaker, otherwise if you just give them all the time in the world, they'll eventually get a pick.
At the very least, you have to be denying sightlines, if not that, but I totally agree. Playing quick is the way to go. Doha keeping the pressure right now onto the Widow in the back. Onigot, meanwhile, the presence in the back, but Shockwave still finds Doha, and Rule kicks open the front door, cursing the Coalescence. Now the Fuel in real danger. Not the tools readily available to easily bring this back, though not impossible. Meanwhile, Vancouver, they have to bring the sword to the point. They get Gamsu, that could be it. Onigot looks for the Deadeye, doesn't get anything. Paintbrush out of the fight. The Fuel still struggling here with the Supercharger. Enough to keep Vancouver back for a little bit. Shockwave out of the fight, and Onigot a real chance to turn this around.
They are investing so many ultimates into this. It looks almost lost. The Vancouver Titans should have a huge advantage. But Doha has found a pick on Rolf, and Shredlock hasn't found too much value with his Primal Raid. And even if this all falls to pieces for Dallas right here, the Vancouver Titans have still been forced to use way more ults than they would have liked.
Yeah, and you look at the time drained off the clock, it's a good, solid about 2 minutes. It's not the craziest point A defense, but more importantly, Josh, this sets up Dallas really well for their point B defense that's coming up.
4 minutes and 30 seconds still on the clock, so no matter what, it's not going to be a faster time from Vancouver, but like you said, Dallas have still got ults to work with here, getting close to double support ults and an EMP available as well. The key player is Shockwave. He's always going to be the key player when he's on the Widowmaker. He needs to find opening picks. He found an opening one on point A. He killed Doha very early on.
Yeah, and I mean, prevented EMP from being a factor. Now Vancouver pressuring the back, but Doha's already found Karkar and Shredlock. Not looking particularly healthy. Loses the support, loses his life, and the Fuel just get to casually walk forward, solidify their advantage. Now, they didn't have to use EMP there, Josh, so it's not entirely free.
Yeah, not free, but it's pretty cheap in terms of the amount of utility and ultimates utilized there. Shockwave goes down, and again, I feel like the Vancouver Titans are just waiting for a pick from him. That's got to be your plan here. It's such a slow-paced composition playing with the Widowmaker and the Sombra. And it doesn't synergize well, as I've previously been saying, with the Moira Lucio kind of comp, because the Moira gets the Coalescence very quickly, and the Lucio wants to speed boost people into position. But the whole time, you can't really take the engagement until Shockwave's either gotten a pick or you have some big ults to be able to work with. This EMP could be crucial, but Dallas have a lot to be able to respond with themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's either you're waiting for the pick or waiting for Dalton to set up a good EMP. Meanwhile, Dallas has a lot more room. Now, Doa's super low to start the fight. Shockwave doesn't let him heal. The beat, not a time to save. That's real big. Shockwave with 2, going wild in the back. Getting set up here. Over 16 HP in the Dream. Ends up finding the paintbrush, but I mean, the fuel, I don't even know if paintbrush can get back. He can't.
Shockwave goes huge. I mean, he just hits some really nice shots there on top of the EMP being utilized. Doha taken down early on before the sound barrier can get onto him. It's wonderful stuff there from Shockwave in the backlines. They made a lot of space for him, and Dallas Fuel had to respect that because Dalton had the EMP available. But at the end of the day, you got somebody in a power position like that playing the Widowmaker. They need to hit their shots, and Shockwave came out with all the results that his team needed of him.
I just had a revelation. It's been like one of those crazy days on so many fronts. You know, one thing we haven't had is 6 CP.
That's
Think
true.
about it.
That's very true. This map is now destined to go 10-10.
The conditions are ripe for the summoning, the Volskaya of the ages. You know, I'm trying to really curse this the other way, but I just feel like it's one of those days. But this is the replay from Shockwave's point of view that really kicked it off.
Yeah, he already killed Doha as well. He's down to 16 health, and I think Doha was pressuring him, and he got a fully charged body shot onto him there, and then picks off Onigod, and then does a bunch of damage to Note while he's hovering in the air with his Gravitic Flux. There's a huge amount of pressure coming out from that Widowmaker in the backlines.
Yeah, and I mean, we kind of set it up where we mentioned, okay, they're just relying on Shockwave to do everything. Well, guess what? That was a scenario where Shockwave did everything, and it worked out really well. But consistency is a problem when you're relying on Widow to do all of that, because the other team, you know, can really limit the Widow's opportunities if they play around it.
Shoko's worried about the Sombra. I mean, obviously we can tell with the caster vision that he's just shooting the thin air, but now Doha's on him.
Yep. Doha's taking the fight. This is looking real rough, and yeah, not ideal circumstances there for Shockwave.
Difficult. You can see what he's going for, that long flank. If he can manage to get behind, then he breaks open this choke point for his team and allows an easy entry for the Titans. But Doha's just always going to be there. He's going to be monitoring where the Widowmaker is trying to play. And I don't think Doha's going to let you go on those crazy kind of flanks.
It was also good awareness for Doha going, wait, I don't see the Widow over here. Only one place the Widow can be, and you know, immediately shut down the flank before it could really happen. And now Doha right now, still on Widow duty.
If Doha goes to contest Shockwave, though, he needs to use his Translocator, which puts him in a very risky position. So he doesn't want to do that. Instead, he's fine just waiting for the Widowmaker to drop once the Vancouver Titans engage.
Meanwhile, on the front line, yep, Somber Widow in the back. Now Cole on both ends. And the Fuel getting a little bit more for it. Onigod getting super low, still healed up. Vancouver getting pushed back, and now you look at the time, Josh. They had 2 minutes to start things off. 30 seconds left remaining. Final push potentially on the way.
EMP available for Doha here. Dalton 25% behind. Oh, but Kaka comes out with the win. Did they manage to kill his Translocator, perhaps? It's gotta be, right? It's gotta be something like that. Otherwise, Doha would have an escape mechanism.
This is such a huge opportunity for Vancouver. The EMP, not a threat. But if you're Dallas, you can hold back here. I think they can wait for Doha, Josh.
Kaka's going to have his ultimate, so is Dalton and Shredlock. A lot of abilities here for Titans to take space and win the fight.
Again!
Huge.
Shockwave! Unbelievable pick from the side. Exactly what Vancouver needed. And Josh, they're still alive.
Huge plays coming out from the Vancouver Titans, both in terms of dealing with Doha, I assume killing his Translocator, and then Kaka gets the finishing blow, and then the headshot there from Shockwave in the final fight. That's enormous because it allows them to save their double support ult and their EMP to be able to engage onto point B here, and it's still winnable.
All right, Vancouver trying to make this at least 4. Dalton, the EMP good to go. Both sides working with it. Dalton trying to take the initiative here into the back. The Fuel looking to stem the tide here for Vancouver. Thompson gets a hack early. EMP up from Doha, strikes forward, but there's the beat in from Karkar. Vancouver still in a good spot. They drop the EMP of their own. Both EMP's gone. Crimzo, Cole in the middle. Shredlock, Shockwave, both down. And the Fuel getting the better of the engage. And it looks like the push is going to stop right here.
A valiant attempt from the Vancouver Titans, but at the end of the day, Gamsu's supercharger is just pushing out way more damage than Karkar's poor little sound barrier is able to deal with. And we end with 3 points on the board for the Titans. I could certainly see a draw happening here, CP. Dallas did manage to take point B last time with a lot of momentum, but we haven't really seen them take just an equal fight into point B.
Yeah, I think this is still a little bit tough for Vancouver, but you know, sometimes you get your telescopes out and look for the draw, because I do see a world here where Dallas on the attack tries to get a little bit too tricky on things, ends up losing about 2 attacks, and you know, it doesn't take much on point A to put yourself in a nearly insurmountable hole for point B. So even though Dallas set a very quick time the first time around, you can't always count on that being the case on the retry.
Yeah, definitely. Those results aren't always replicable. And the Vancouver Titans are going to be defending with a very similar kind of composition coming out here. Shockwave, a lot of pressure on him again to be able to hit these shots. See if Dallas try anything. I think they're just going to go for the exact same kind of setup. A Shockwave, of course, was on the Ashe last time when he was defending, so now moving over to the Widowmaker, where I would argue that he's had much more impact playing the Widow. I think it suits his style a lot more.
So much pressure, though, in this situation where, you know, as a Widow, you have to be perfect for 4 minutes on point A if you're looking for the win, and still pretty consistent overall if you're just trying to force the draw. I mean, you know, the degree to which Shockwave is going to have to play perfectly here is kind of unreal.
Dallas are considering what composition they want to use here. Notes made his way over to the Diva, which is going to allow him more opportunity in the middle of these fights to harass and contest Shredlock as he jumps away, and also Shockwave.
You see the pressure into the back, and I mean, at this point, if you're Fuel, you take down Shockwave, you know you've dealt with public enemy number 1, and don't get goes, wow. Wait, did he just do that under pressure?
That's absurd.
How in the world getting Crimzo? Now, the Fuel, they're still heading on in. They've dealt with Karkar. Dalton fighting Onigod, and Vancouver proving to be remarkably resilient, but that flick shot from Shockwave, just disgusting, Josh.
Yeah, that really is. That's a fight decider. They've ticked a minute off the clock there, and the peel was a little late, all right, from the Vancouver Titans. It was a little bit late, but when it came in, it was at the exact crucial time, just as Shockwave was about to die. And here's the replay. He's just finished getting harassed by Doha. First shot after he's taken the peel is that grapple shot onto Crimzo that just takes all of the healing away from Dallas.
He's under pressure again. You keep seeing his health go so low, and if Dallas is successful even once, you know, that very well could be the map. EMP out from Dalton. Gets 3 on the Fuel, and Dalton still keeps his life. Gets away. The fall through from Vancouver coming in up the front. And this, not too bad here so far, but Karkar and Shredlock, they get caught towards the end, and Reaper sustain really good.
Yeah, not like this. Not like this, Titans. You had so many opportunities there. You found the opening kill onto Wolf, and you demeched, onto Crimzo, and you demeched Note. But after that, they just invested way too heavily in the fight. Can Shockwave save them?
I don't believe. I mean, I believe in Shockwave to a degree, but this would be insane. Gets Doha, but you need so much more, and you need presence on the point. Surely not.
It's possible. The Vancouver Titans have got a Primal Rage here to be able to scatter people around.
Oh, no doubt of it. Is this truly happening? Vancouver not giving up. Dalton, the EMP ready to go, but Shockwave's out of the fight. It's Paintbrush of all people putting an end to it. And now you gotta look back over the Dalton, the EMP ready. Gamsu out of the fight. And Dalton dies. Doesn't get a chance to drop the EMP. Fuel flooding back over. Onigod, Death Blossom, Shredlock down. And this is so scrappy.
Yeah, insanely scrappy. Really clutch as well. Onigod with the Death Blossom just towards the end as KSA had run out of his defense matrix. But I think the key difference maker in that fight, obviously Shockwave hitting his shots is fantastic, but I really believed that the Titans were coming back into that one until Dalton died. They didn't pocket him enough. He was close to his EMP. If he had unleashed the EMP, I think that fight was turnable. But now, a minute and a half to defend point B, and they still have the EMP bomb, and they're going to be close to a soundbar as well. This, telescopes out. The draw might be coming.
Yeah, I think that the draw is very much in the cards here. Now, that said, the Fuel still have this one good opportunity And once more, you look towards Doha. This time, though, Dalton takes the initiative, drops the EMP, but, I think if you're the Fuel, you're okay with this. If you end up losing this fight, it's fine. Yeah. You've saved your resources. The Fuel are going to have one really good fight coming up.
Yeah, for the Vancouver Titans, they don't invest too many ults in there. It's an EMP and a self-destruct, so they've still got double support ult and the primal. And Infosight as well, of course, which will empower Shockwave to potentially clutch even harder towards the end of this fight. But you're right, Dallas have got all the ults they need to be able to take this. They can plunk down a supercharger, push forwards, EMP people. Again, I keep thinking about it, but it comes down to Shockwave. If Shockwave hits some shots here, the draw is going to happen.
Yeah, meanwhile for Dallas, you want to be very quick here. Limit the window for Shockwave to find these shots. The Infosight is up. 18 seconds left remaining. And I don't know if Dallas wants to wait this out. No, they're going to go in. They drop the Supercharger. Now the stage is set. Doha, what's your EMP going to be? Supercharger is down. And Doha is still looking for that good EMP. Still waiting. Finally drops it, hits 2. KSA going to get demeched as a result. Beat Parkar a little bit late. And now the Cole in from the back. Crimzo keeping the team alive. Dallas still looking healthy. Onigod spinning to the back, doesn't quite get anything. Vancouver still in this. Shockwave still alive. Doha out of the fight. Vancouver looking for the hold, but the Fuel, the frontline battle, strong. The EMP comes out a little bit late from Dalton. 4 still up for the Fuel, and the EMP might have been too late, Josh.
The EMP also caught Paintbrush, and so it completely negated the sound barrier, but Dallas Fuel had already got positioning over the point, and they're able to take the win. Huge stuff. Great pocket onto Onigod as well when he was playing that Reaper, ensuring that he never died, allowing him to get that Death Blossom off as well, and zoning players out away from the point. Also, note with a nice self-destruct towards the end there that did pretty much exactly the same thing. It was scrappy. It was close. But at the end of the day, Dallas Fuel have a clean 3-0 to put on the board against an opponent that has previously stumped them so far in 2020.
I think right now, if you're Dallas, you're looking at the weekend. I'm not sure a lot of people thought they would beat the Gladiators, but they learned from their mistakes of yesterday, came back stronger against Vancouver, and this is a starting point that they needed, and overall, pretty consistent play, especially from players like Note.
Yes. Yeah, Note was very consistent throughout this match. Doha had some high moments as well, but the Dallas Fuel has got a good, well-rounded system. When you see them playing games like that, that's what comes to mind, is that they are able in these matches to rely on just a decent system where the pieces understand how to work well together. And I think that's the advantage of having that Gamsu Note tank line. It's not amazing. It's not going to get you these championship title runs, but it's solid.
Yeah, and it's something to build on, and that does lead us to our player of the match presented by Xfinity, and it's Note. I think Note, it's easy when you're a solid performer to kind of get lost in the flashiness of other roles, but I think Note was a huge part of why Dallas always had a foundation here today.
Yeah, it's a good performance from the Dallas Fuel, and Note as well. He had good performances both on the D.Va, able to get back to his primary role, and also on the Sigma, which he's done a lot of work this season to develop into being as potent as his D.Va when it comes to the play for the Dallas Fuel. So yeah, he had some great moments there over the course of this series, really helping his team clean up and stabilize in the middle of these team fights, exactly what you would want from a Sigma. And Dallas do the business. They managed to get a 3-0 here.
Yeah, I just wonder here, you're looking for a Dallas perspective, you're going, wait, there's hope. And, there is a cycle to all this where, you're getting hope, you're going, everything's going well, and then sometimes it just seems like the bottom falls under from Dallas. But, look, better the win here today, start cultivating the hope, and we'll see if this is the time that Dallas, does surprise people as we head into the playoffs.
Yeah, they've got to push towards the end of the regular season. Development and refine their teamwork, fix mistakes that were happening for them earlier on in the season. And I don't envy the task of new interim head coach for the Dallas Fuel, but I do think that if they are going to make developments, it has to be now. They need to work off the back of Young taking over and turn that into a success. He's got a really tough task ahead of him to be able to turn the reasonable system of the Dallas Fuel into punting above their weight, but I think it's possible for them.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also kind of a tricky area to be in too, where in any sport, right, you have the example of an interim head coach, and often what decides, do you become the actual head coach, or do you find yourself, still in the assistant role or off on another team? It is really this period here of how the team immediately does. But enough of that. We want to talk to the man of the hour. We got Zoe with Note.
We do indeed. Thank you, CP. And Josh, Note, congratulations, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It was a fun match to play, even if it was a tiny bit of a sweep.
Well, I mean, swoops can be entertaining to watch as well. However, let's start this off with a less entertaining topic. Yesterday, you guys faced off against the Gladiators, and we did see you guys incorporating a lot of Pharah into your compositions. Today, you showed a very different look. Was that due to the takeaways from yesterday's match?
A little bit of that and a little bit of watching what Vancouver were going to play. We saw that they're doing a lot of Winston Diva, Echo, Sombra stuff. And we didn't think the Pharah was the best matchup against that. We really wanted it as more of like a counter to a Rush style, more like Arista Sigma kind of comps. But yeah, we definitely just wanted to adjust to whatever would give us the best chance of beating Vancouver.
Yeah, and I mean, today it was a really solid performance from you and your team. Overall, looking at the hero pool this week, I know it's going to be a little awkward for a lot of the teams. How long did it take for you guys to kind of find your footing in this new meta now?
We really did a lot of experimenting, trying to find out what would be best for us, not just like kind of adhering to exactly whatever the meta of everyone else is playing. But it really didn't take us too long. I think we had the, really good week of scrims overall, I think, and definitely found our footing by the end of it, even if we couldn't win the first match.
Which teams are you currently scrimming the most against? Has that changed over the course of the season a lot, or are you just kind of consistent with your scrim partners?
It always changes. If you're going to play like a team in the coming weeks, you won't end up scrimming them that week or even in like the weeks before it. So typically whoever we've played recently will scrim a decent amount. And it's always changing. I think we've scrimmed like almost every team in NA at least like once or twice. Kind of just varies to who's available, I guess.
Yeah. Now the season is almost over. We are in the last 2 weeks. What's the mood like in the team so far?
I think we really want to put on a good performance at the end. I think nobody's happy with how this season's gone. I think everybody's really hungry to just perform better and keep improving. Just overall, we want to do better than we have been doing right now.
Well, and you will get that chance. Thank you so much. Great performance today from you and your team, Note, and we can't wait to see you guys pop off in the playoffs as well.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
You too. Now we're heading into a very quick break, and then afterwards we are back with the next match of the day, which will be played out between the Boston Uprising and the LA Gladiators, so don't go anywhere.